So before we jump into the heart of the presentation, we just wanted to give you a little background on my personal bookkeeper and what we do. Basically, we provide our clients with help managing and organizing their day-to-day financial and household affairs. Some of our most requested services include bill pay, and this could be manually writing checks, online bill pay, getting our clients set up online, setting up auto pay, anything having to do with bill pay. Another popular service or requested service, which is very timely right now, is tax organization. And we help our clients get important documents together for their accountant, and we'll follow up on documents that are missing, and then get the documents scanned and uploaded to the accountant's portal, or make copies and drop them off at the accountant's office to make sure that he or she receives what's needed in a timely manner. We also help with insurance claim management, especially if you've come off of a recent surgery or have had some type of medical condition. You know, those explanation of benefits statements can pile up quickly, so we'll help get those organized and help address any issues that might come up insurance related. Another highly requested service is mail review. We all get way too much mail, and sometimes it's very hard to decipher the junk mail from the necessary mail. So we will go through the mail for our clients and break out what's important and what needs to be addressed, and throw out the garbage. Lastly, filing. We can set up a physical filing system, so with hard copies of files in clients' homes, or really the direction, you know, we'd prefer to move, and hopefully our clients would, is in the digital space, setting up a system in the cloud so that not only the client can access it, but family members can access it, professional advisors. So that's super helpful. But the most important thing is all of our services are customizable. No two clients are alike, and we realize that, and we'll work with the client, obviously, to take care of whatever their needs are. We provide a free, no obligation consultation. And certainly, if any of this sounds of interest to you, or you know anyone who might need some help like this, feel free to reach out to Jackie or myself, and you can visit mypersonalbookkeeper.com.
Okay, so getting into our meaty presentation here, we want to just give you a preview of what you're going to learn today. So we're going to talk about the definition of a scam and why it is so prevalent now. We're going to also talk about how you can recognize a scam from something that might be real. And we'll give you tips on how you can avoid being the victim of fraud and identity theft. And we will also give you some information on what you should do if you think you have been scammed, because it's important to take care of it right away.
Let's talk first about what exactly is a scam. So a scam is a deceptive scheme or trick used to cheat someone out of something, and usually that something is money. Scams are often perpetrated by mail, phone, or email, and those performing the scams may be trying to steal credit card or bank account numbers, Social Security and Medicare numbers, and one-time or recurring payments. Often we've seen that these scammers are slowly working on building files. So they may be gathering your birth date from one source, your Social Security number from another source, and then your bank account information later. Unfortunately, scams have been running rampant this year, with COVID-19 being the main cause. As you know, more people have been in a desperate situation and stuck at home and looking for easy ways to make money, which just continues to breed more scams. Older adults also have been stuck at home and isolated from family and friends, and this is making them more susceptible to a person on the phone offering assistance. The older adults have been spending more time on their computers and potentially falling prey to fake emails and links on social media. So, I mean, scams always run rampant, but certainly with the pandemic, it's given them even more to prey off of.
So why is identity theft so prevalent? Identity theft has been happening for a long time, but this past year, as Lisa said, people are in desperate times. And so we've seen an increase in this type of crime. Here's an explanation of why criminals do this from someone who was a well-known security consultant. He said that criminals look at identity theft and say only 1 in 700 criminals get convicted of it. And they look at check forgery and they say that for every 1,400 forgers arrested, only about 123 of those are convicted and about 26 go to jail. The rewards are great, but the risks are very slim. That's one of the reasons that make it very popular. It's very hard because, and we'll talk about that, people don't catch it on time, people don't report it. It's very hard to convict someone of identity theft. I'm going to talk about some common scams which aim at getting your personal information. Some of you may have been victim of some of these or have maybe heard of them. One is called the grandchild or family member in trouble scam. And typically they will do it to an older adult and use the grandchild. So they call an older adult, usually late at night or early in the morning, so that they wake them up and the person is a bit groggy. And they say, Grandma, hi, I need your help. And they sound very distressed. And Grandma wakes up thinking, oh my goodness, I hear this voice in distress and says, Susie, is that you? Now the person on the other end has a name to work with and says, yes, Grandma, it's Susie and I'm in trouble. Please don't tell my parents, they'll be so mad at me, but can you please help me? And then they ask the grandma to, or grandpa, to wire them money or give them credit card information. And a lot of times, and I know people who have fallen for this, people give this information out. And it's a terrible scam. It's a horrible thing to do. The person that I know this happened to last year, they realized after they hung up, it was a couple and one of them was on the phone and they were too embarrassed to call their daughter and tell her that they fell for this. So they sat on it for a couple of days and then they checked their bank account and found that they were out $5,000. They eventually called their daughter to let her know that this happened and they found out that of course, their granddaughter was not in any trouble and she was at home. And by this point, they had to really take it up with the bank and it turned into a very big deal. There are unsolicited calls from the Social Security Administration. And I'll bet that most of you have received some type of call like this, where they call and they tell you there's a problem with your benefits and they can reinstate your benefits, but they need your bank account information to do that and your Social Security number. Never give this information out over the phone unless you made the call to the Social Security office and we're lucky enough to get through and speak to someone there so that you've initiated it and you know who you're talking to, but they will never call you for this type of information. These Social Security scams can also come in the mail or through email, and they might, have a very real looking email with a link in it to provide. Just click on that link and go ahead and provide that information. The same rule stands. Don't give anything out if it's unsolicited, only when you are initiating this information. And the same goes with the IRS. These are very prevalent. I get these calls all the time from somebody telling me that I am past due on some IRS payments and there's a warrant out for my arrest unless I take care of this right away. And this very friendly person on the phone says they can help me right now if I want to give them payment and give them my bank account information. So first of all, you should know that the IRS uses the US Postal Service to contact people. They do not call or email. And they are never that aggressive. They do not put a warrant out for your arrest if you are past due with a payment to them. So again, just beware and be alert and remember that these, don't get nervous in the moment. Be aware that these things are not real. All of these items that I just mentioned are ways of getting at your Social Security number, your bank account number, or your credit card number. And as Lisa said earlier, starting to build a file on you. Or actually, if you give them all of that information, they can then use it and if they have conducted identity theft.
You're going to hear a lot of recurring themes throughout this presentation, and we'll kind of summarize at the end. But just as I had mentioned earlier, COVID-19 and the pandemic has provided new vehicles for identity theft and scams. Early on, there were calls offering free personal protective equipment, and now we're seeing calls offering preventative medications or offering to secure you a vaccine appointment for a fee. Now that vaccines are getting a little more prevalent and more available, some of this is probably dying down, but you should still be aware of this. You know, there certainly are many wonderful people out there assisting others with vaccine appointments, and they're not charging fees. So you should never have to pay to schedule a vaccination, and the vaccination should be free. But still, consumers should be wary, excuse me, should be wary of the following regarding vaccines. Request that you pay out of pocket to receive a shot or get on a vaccine waiting list. Like I said, you should never have to pay for that. Also, ads for vaccines in websites or social media posts, emails, or phone calls. You might have signed up for some emails either through your county or through healthcare providers or like Walgreens sending information. So those you should know about, but any unsolicited contacts, don't fall prey to that. Lastly, marketers offering to sell or ship doses of the COVID-19 vaccine, that's not going to happen. Again, this next one might not be happening as much now that things are getting a little more under control, thank God. But if you receive a call from a contact tracer, they should provide you with information. You should not need to give them any personal information. So just be aware of that. Regarding your vaccination card, and some of you may have heard this, the Attorney General, Kwame Raoul, warned people not to share the vaccination card on social media. A lot of people were so excited, they took pictures with their cards and posted them. But thieves can use this information on your card to access and steal additional personal information. So the Attorney General's office is investigating reports of fake vaccination cards being sold online. Someone might purchase a card which gives the vaccination number for the first dose, and then they can go in and take the second dose away from someone who signed up for it. So that is a big no-no. A more recent issue, an alert was issued in late March about phishing emails and text messages disguised as surveys about the COVID-19 vaccine. Supposedly, these were sent out by the shot producers, Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, and they promised a free reward if you provide bank or credit card information to cover a small fee. That again is a scam, and you should never, don't provide your bank or credit card information to an unfamiliar source. And the last item I wanted to mention is just be wary of any phone calls or emails from strangers that are urging you to invest in maybe a hot new stock from a company working on coronavirus related products or services. I don't think that's happening as much as it was maybe a few months ago, but still, again, good things to be aware of.
Okay, I'm going to talk about charitable giving. I'm sure that many of you like to donate to charities of your choice when you are able, but you need to be aware here too. If you receive emails or calls that are high pressure to give immediately, beware. A charitable organization should never pressure you to give right now. If you receive an email, don't click on the link to email so that you can donate. You're better off opening another tab in your browser, going to their website and making the donation yourself, or putting a check in the mail to the charity of your choice. Don't look at unsolicited emails, as we keep saying, or don't click on a link. Once you have made a donation to a charity, you will probably receive more mail from them in the coming months asking for more money. I know that, once I give money to someone, I get something every month, and it gets confusing because they're still asking you for money, but you already gave. So sometimes in your mind, you can think, I meant to give to them, but did I actually do it? And then you say, well, I'll just do it now. And you write them another check. And I've seen this with a lot of people where they're giving to the same charity month after month after month without realizing that they did it. And if you want to do that, if you want to send more money, great, that's wonderful. But if you didn't mean to, it could cause you a problem if you've donated more than you really have budgeted to do. So it's really important to keep track of your donations. You can just have a notebook where you write it all down, or you can make a spreadsheet, but always look back at it before you donate again to see if you already donated to that charity. Do your research on a charitable organization before you give money to them. If you don't know a lot about them, go to their website, make sure it's a real charity, look up reviews. You can go to these websites here, charitynavigator.org and give.org, to get a review of a charity and to find out more about their financial health, their mission, and their credibility. So just always do your research, even when it's charity.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about online shopping scams. Certainly online shopping has been popular for years, but with the advent of the pandemic, I'm sure you've all heard in the news, I mean, just incredible increases in the number of people shopping online and the business going through that channel. So there's just a few things to be aware of potentially when you're shopping online. So the first one, if you see a discount in excess of 55%, or something advertising bargain basement prices, if the business is going out of business or it's a clearance, that's okay. Otherwise, I would be a little leery of such low pricing or discounts, I should say. The next item, offers that ask for payment by wire transfer or money order, similar to what Jackie had mentioned about charities. You should never pay for a purchase with a wire transfer or a money order. Depending on the retailer, a gift card may be acceptable as a form of payment, but you've got to check, but never wire transfer or money order. If you go to a website and it just doesn't look good, and I mean, there are some legitimate websites that may not look good, but I mean, there's grammatical errors, there's mistakes in the design. You'll be able to tell that this is not a legitimate site, because certainly legitimate retailers take great care with their online presentation and wouldn't want to present themselves in that manner. If you go to a site and there are limited or suspicious contact options for customer service contact or to ask questions, for example, they only have a fill-in contact form with not a whole lot of information, or the customer service email is a Yahoo or a Gmail account and not a corporate one. So for instance, my personal bookkeeper is info@mypersonalbookkeeper.com. That certainly is more legitimate than a Yahoo or a Gmail. So that's just something to be aware of. The last item is URLs. So the URL is the website address that you type into the bar at the top of the page. If there's extraneous words or characters or unusual domains, the domain is what comes after the period. So usually you see a .com or a .net, but if it's something like .bargain, .app, or potentially even a foreign domain, that's something to be suspicious of. And then just one thing I wanted to mention, which isn't on the slide too, is we're seeing a lot of scams with deliveries. And if you get a text or an email that appears to be from UPS or FedEx, hoping that you click on a link to check delivery, a lot of times that can be a scam. Unless you know you've signed up for notifications directly through UPS or FedEx on deliveries, you should delete that text or email immediately. And again, the overriding theme is just don't click on anything that looks suspicious.
Okay, so I'd like to give you some real life examples of scams that we have seen, over the past year. The people who work for my personal bookkeeper meet with people one-on-one, and we call them client advocates because they do things other than bookkeeping, like protecting people from identity theft. So one of our clients received mail telling her she could increase her monthly Social Security benefit by completing this form and mailing it back to them. The form asked for her Social Security number, her bank account number information, and her date of birth. And then they also wanted her credit card to pay a one-time fee, and that after that, they would increase her monthly benefit. So fortunately, this woman had filled out the form, but she always waits for her appointment with my personal bookkeeper before she takes care of everything. So she had our client advocate review the form, and our client advocate was able to stop her from signing it. They shredded the form, and she explained to her that you shouldn't need to provide your Social Security number and your bank account information, and they don't offer ways for you to pay to get a higher benefit amount. So and she was able to see by the name on the form that it wasn't a true Social Security Administration form. So always check it out. We actually Googled, we did a Google search for the name that was on this form and found a whole bunch of reviews that it was fraudulent. So it's pretty easy if you take the time to check things out. It's easy to see that something isn't real. We started working with a client last year who was um, had a little bit of cognitive impairment and hadn't been checking bank account statements or credit card statements for a while. And so our client advocate started looking at his bank accounts and said, well, do your Social Security deposits go? And he said, into this bank account. Well, he hadn't been receiving his Social Security deposit for over a year. And they called the Social Security office and found that somebody had committed identity theft on him and had moved his monthly benefit into an account of somebody in California. And this man went over a year without receiving his benefits. So they were able to correct it. You know, dealing with Social Security isn't the easiest thing, but they went to the Social Security office and they were able to get the money back and rectify the situation. But it is really important that you are checking your bank accounts and your credit card statements regularly. In the past 6 months, unemployment claims have been filed fraudulently in people's names. It's a huge problem in Illinois. I think it's over 1 million fraudulent unemployment claims. And what happens is you receive a letter in the mail, and you may even receive a little card that's like a debit card that has your first unemployment benefits on it. It tells you you've been approved for unemployment. And you didn't apply for unemployment, so you can't figure out how this happened. One of our clients, who is a widow, received one for her husband who had passed away 2.5 years ago. So while it's not really stealing directly from the person, it is stealing from the state. It is theft, and somehow they had your information in order to file that claim. So the only thing you would need to do at this point, they've made the process simpler to report it, is you go on the Illinois Department of Employment Security's website and report it, or you can call the department and report the theft. Another common scam that it's not always a scam, but in many cases it is. We get these calls and we get mail quite often from third-party electric suppliers that say they can save you money if you switch from ComEd to them, and you won't notice any interruption in your services. So that's fine and well, but you have to pay attention to it, because quite often they start you at a much lower rate, and 3 months down the line, your rate shoots way up and your bill is much higher than it would have been if you had stayed with ComEd. So beware of these offers. Again, my theme is do your research before making any changes, and be sure you really want to make that change and that it's a reputable company. And finally, this one really pains me. I talk all the time about how important it is to have relationships with the professionals that you trust, your accountant, your attorney, a bookkeeper, whoever that might be, a nurse, but make sure that they're not doing things that are outside of their expertise. So we had a client who was living in a senior living community, and she was befriended by a nurse there, and the nurse started assisting her with all kinds of things that were way beyond nursing. She was ordering things for her, um, even helping her with bank deposits. She had the person's credit card number so that she could place orders. Eventually, my personal bookkeeper was hired, and we began reviewing credit card statements and found many charges that did not belong to the person who owned the credit card. And we found that this nurse had been using it herself. And it was a terrible thing for her to take advantage. We found out she was doing this to more than one person in the building, and she was let go from that facility. But beware, make sure that a person helping you is truly helping you in the way that they should be. And have people that you trust that you can report something to if you think something isn't right.
Absolutely. So a lot of this we've talked about throughout the presentation, but it's so important that it bears repeating. What to do to protect yourself from some of these scams that we've mentioned. So the first item is lock your devices as if you lock your front door, whether it's your computer, your smartphone, your iPad, they all have locking capability. It does mean you probably have to remember a password, but it's so important to do that, because if you don't, anyone could just walk up. If you're potentially in a public place or in a community and you leave your iPad out and it's not locked, someone could just walk up and access all of the information on there. So it's really important to lock those devices. A common thing we've mentioned throughout this presentation, if someone calls out of the blue and claims to be from the Social Security Agency, hang up. A government agency will never call to ask for personal information. As Jackie said, you're going to get mail from the Social Security Agency. They're not going to call you, so just hang up. Don't even engage. The next item, don't share personal information such as Social Security, Medicare, and credit card numbers in response to an unsolicited call, text, or email, which again is similar to the bullet number 2. Again, if someone's asking for this information, don't provide it. You should not be getting inquiries like that. The next item, you can set up notifications with your bank for credit card charges over a certain amount. So if that happens, if there's an unidentified charge over this amount, you can get a text sent to your phone immediately, which is very helpful. Try not to use your debit card for purchases. If someone has your debit card number, they can just drain your bank account. If you use a credit card, it's fairly easy to catch and you can dispute the charge. The next item, if you get a call from a robocaller and they leave a voicemail message, don't call that number back. There are some robo-blocking apps that can be installed on your smartphone, and most of the major providers provide some blocking service. So all 4 major carriers, AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, and Sprint, have tools to identify, filter, and to prevent suspected robocall numbers from dialing or texting your phone. So that's good to know. And the other thing, and that holds true with almost any of these, is use your common sense. If you receive a call from an unknown number or one that doesn't show up on your caller ID, don't answer. If it is an important call, odds are they're going to leave a message and you can call them back at a later time. Another big one, which we've probably said multiple times throughout the presentation, don't click on links or download files from unexpected emails, even if the email address looks like a company or an individual that you recognize. And the same is true for text messages and unfamiliar websites. When in doubt, contact the entity that supposedly sent the suspicious contact, but don't click on anything. And if the contact information looks a little sketchy, maybe go to, if you've got contact information on an invoice or some other piece of information, try to use a phone number or website from that. The next item, talk to people, such as your family members or a trusted professional for advice. These scammers are smart, and you shouldn't be ashamed if you fall for a scam. I mean, even the most intelligent person can be scammed. So it can happen to anyone, and the most important thing is to report it and get it rectified right away. Next, ask for names of companies and individuals if you're concerned that something might be a scam. You can hang up and then try to do some research on your own, and then recontact the person if you find that it's valid. But the bottom line here is really a life lesson that we've all learned at some point. If it sounds too good to be true, it usually is, unfortunately.
So we can also provide this sheet as a handout, but these are ways to report scams. You can go to identitytheft.gov to report something to the Federal Trade Commission if you think you have been something has been fraudulent. You can call the Illinois Attorney General Consumer Fraud Hotline, or there is an online way of doing that. There's also reportfraud.ftc.gov. That's another way of contacting the Federal Trade Commission to report fraud. And then there's the AARP Fraud Helpline, which is really a good tool if you're just unsure of something. If you got a piece of mail and you just don't know if it's real or not, you can call AARP and they can try to help you. They have experts there who can help. So that brings us to the end of our presentation and leaves us some time for questions. Or if you want to share a story of something that may have happened to you or someone you know, we'd love to hear that now. I'm going to stop the screen share first. I just wanted to share this. If you ever want to contact us, we will also send this out with the other information. Feel free to contact us if you have a question, as well as AARP. We can try to help you too. If you're unsure of something, feel free to give us a call. Does anyone have a question? You can just, I don't know if there were any in the chat, or if you want to unmute and ask us.
And like we said, we'd also love to hear if you have been involved in a scam and what that was and how you dealt with it. So.
Well, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I've been involved in 2 scams, and I'm embarrassed to say I thought I was a smart person, but these, like I say, like you folks say, these folks are masters, and they're very, very intelligent, these people doing the scams, but they're criminals. And anyway, and twice, and it won't happen again because now I'm smarter, or you well informed, they wanted to get into my computer, and first they filled me with fear. That's a big deal they do. And said that, for instance, the Amazon company has reported to me through my text message that my Amazon account has been breached. And it's not, and they even have stationery that's got the Amazon logo. I mean, these fraud guys are pretty good. And they get into the computer because I was dumb enough to let them, but now I know better. And they put all kinds of like viruses and fake. It's all fake. But, you have this Trojan horse, you have this virus, and they're going to be stealing all your bank account, any kind of financial info. Well, of course, now I'm filled with fear. And last thing on that, and this is, I can't believe how dumb I am to do this. Then they said the way to counteract all of these fraud type things, that's stealing stuff on the computer, is to go buy gift cards at the Target or wherever, and read to the criminal over the phone the gift card numbers. And I was dumb enough to do this a few times, but what I've learned, and I would like to share that with everybody, is always call a friend, a professional like you folks, the AARP. Call a relative, call somebody that's pretty smart with finances and stuff and computers, and ask their advice, because I asked the advice after I'd been scammed, and then at least I could stop the scam. But anyway, and then they said that the gift cards were electronically reducing the fraud going on the computer, which really probably makes no sense to anybody. But they had filled me with fear, and so I just want to. That's my story for that. And last thing, a few years ago, this is a short thing. Let's see, who was it? So, oh, they pretended they were Microsoft company. And anyway, and I had actually clicked on Microsoft customer service, and I ended up connecting with the scammer through the internet. And he said, oh, again, you have virus. This is terrible. Your computer's in bad shape and whatever, we can help you correct it. And so he got the criminal again, got into my computer, this, that, and the other. He wanted information I didn't give out, thank God. Oh, what's your checking account number? And I'm not giving that out, whatever. So, but that was also very frightening. So that's my story.
Well, I'm sorry that happened to you. That is really frightening. And that is what happens. And you're a smart person and you're rational. But when they get to you and all of a sudden you believe what you're hearing, and then now you're in this panic of, oh my God, this happened to my computer, then you're willing to keep listening and go buy those gift cards and do whatever you have to do.
Right.
And as you said, had you called a friend or an accountant or somebody who you would have heard yourself talking even and realized it yourself. So most importantly is to just take a step back, think about it, take a break from what you're doing, talk to someone, and realize, and that, like, letting someone take over your computer and get on is a really scary thing to do. And I do it, but I do it with a company that I have called, it's my payroll company or something like that. And they say, let me just help you.
Yes.
Okay. But never do that with a stranger.
Exactly.
And those are easy things to fall for. All of this, and it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It's just really easy for that to happen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Does anyone receive those calls? Do you get voicemails from the IRS or Social Security saying they're going to owe them money and there's a warrant for your arrest?
I've gotten the electric company scam. I'm not even sure. Maybe it was a scam or maybe I don't know. But I never gave them any important information. But I did follow. I was vulnerable in a sense where I believed their story about, oh, we can save you the money and stuff. So although I didn't really have any identity theft stuff going that I knew of, I noticed my bill had been cheap, like you say, one time, and then it went up double. So I immediately stopped it, called them up, forget it, I don't want your company, anything about you. And they were very, so we say, displeased that I was ending the relationship with them, asking me why and how come. And I said, it's ridiculous. Why should I pay double? It's crazy. And then they let me alone. But I noticed that they called me, that third party, multiple times, more than any Con Ed person would call you. And
yeah. Those things all seem very real, and it's, well, why not? Why wouldn't I try and save some money? And they explain to you that they're buying it in bulk. It makes sense when they explain that they're buying it from ComEd in bulk, and that's why they can charge you less money. And I don't really know anyone that's been happy with that service. So I have never done it. I've thought about it too over the years, but I've never. My uncle, I've received those IRS calls. My uncle called his daughter-in-law in a panic. The IRS left me a message, and did you take care of my estimated payments? They say I owe money, and they're putting out a warrant for my arrest. He was so panicked, and I felt so badly for him. And we explained to him, that's not real, just ignore it. And what do you mean, just ignore it? He was so scared. It's a terrible thing.
Yeah. A question regarding this. Do you think the scammers go after women more than men? I mean, probably anybody, but I'm just curious.
I don't know. I haven't seen, I'm going to look that up. I haven't seen statistics on that.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
I would just think if they're going after the elderly population, then there's probably more women than men, but it happens to everyone. My husband, there was an unemployment claim for him in October. And then there was one for me, I think in February. We own the company. So no one's immune to this. You know, and a lot of people wouldn't even know, they wouldn't even realize it happened. Some people don't open all their mail. And what we think happens, and I've talked to several people about this who are really in the know, and nobody knows for sure why they're doing it. What we think is happening is they put your bank account in to start with, and you get that debit card, and then they call unemployment and they switch bank accounts. So now that benefit is going to their own bank account after you got it this time, and you think you canceled it.
Gee.
Yeah, I always say that if these criminals would put as much time into honest work, they could be doing really well without having to do all of this.
For sure.
Okay.
Becky
Anyone
has a
else?
question.
Raise their hand. Becky?
You can unmute Becky.
Pam, are you able to unmute her?
I'm trying to unmute you, Becky. Are you able to unmute you? I clicked ask to unmute Becky. Right, Becky.
Or you can type your question in the chat if you can't unmute. If you have a question.
Yeah, Becky, I just wrote you to ask to either type your question in or to unmute yourself. Maybe while we wait for Becky, does anyone else have a question?
Pam, is it okay if we email you a resource page that you can email it out?
Yes, I'll email the whole group.
Great.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you. I think her hand went away. Okay.
Okay, well, if you have a question for us at a later date, feel free to call us and ask. We're here.
All right, and if there's no more questions, that concludes our YMCA Education Series presentation. On behalf of the North Suburban YMCA and our Yes Series, we'd like to thank you for supporting our organization and programs like this. A special thank you to Jackie and Lisa for speaking to us today. It was a great conversation as well at the end. I enjoyed it. Thank you. Programs like this are free and open to everyone in our community. So if you enjoyed today's program and would like to support the North Suburban YMCA, you can make a donation on our website, nsymca.org. We hope to see you at our next speaker series, which is tomorrow at 9:15, talking about Medicaid. So thank you again today to Jackie and Lisa and for everyone to be on the call, and have a wonderful day.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Pam.
Thank you.
Bye.